Right now, something unstoppable is happening in your favor. The people who acted against you are going to have to deal with the consequences of their own decisions as the balances are moving. This is a reckoning, not merely karma, and you are at the heart of it. Not because you raised a hand or sought retribution, but because the world does not tolerate wrong going unpunished. You were never just another individual going through life without anybody noticing. You are the outlier, the oddball, the one with a unique energy that breaks the illusions others attempt to keep up. They were resentful rather than inspired when they saw your brilliance. They attempted, but were unable to drag you down rather than rise with you. And now they're circling back with fury, accuracy, and no way out of every stride they made against you. This is proof that the power you possess is genuine. You are surrounded by unbreakable protection. All of their attempts to quiet you, obstruct you, and get you to question yourself were unsuccessful. Stronger, smarter, and unstoppable, you are still standing. The cosmos is now using you to make a point. What was intended to shine cannot be dimmed by anybody. Prepare yourself. You're on the rise, and they're going to discover that there's only one way to play with fire. They walked with the assurance of people who think they are untouchable, confident that their deeds would never come back to haunt them. This was a deliberate demolition, intended to watch you stumble and to take away your wins until nothing was left. It was not rash jealousy or short-lived bitterness. However, they were unaware of the tenacity that sprang from their devastation. Every challenge they posed turned into the cornerstone of your power. The tide has now changed. What they previously avoided is now coming full circle, encroaching like a relentless force. The consequences of what they have sowed cannot be avoided. Leave a comment. Justice will come. What was done in the dark will be exposed to the light. Sometimes, like stones too heavy to ignore, warnings were positioned in their way, and the truth spoke to them. However, pride may be blinding. They chose to take more, hurt more, and follow a road without responsibility instead of listening to the cry for change. Through indications, quiet intervals, deteriorating patterns, and flashes of unease, the world urged them to pause and think again. Nevertheless, they disregarded everything, persuading themselves that they were unaffected. However, no imbalance is ever completely unchecked. What they won't admit is now becoming indisputable, appearing in ways they are unable to ignore. Once a threshold is passed, it cannot be reversed. Numerous opportunities were presented to them to go back, make a new decision, and distance themselves from the devastation they were causing. However, kindness has its boundaries and fades when ignored. They are now free to follow their own path after the hands that previously reached out to pull them from the brink withdrew. There isn't any last-minute repentance or negotiating. Brick by brick, the building they constructed is now crumbling under its own weight. The cosmos does not let disorder to persist forever. Nothing stands between them and the repercussions they so desperately attempted to avoid, now that the reckoning they thought they had averted has only become stronger. Now is the moment to share, if you sense the wealth of divine love inside your heart. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and donate $20 or more to help spread God's blessings. Through this platform, this wonderful gift will impact not only your life, but also the souls of countless others. Your giving will be the result of our prayers, and every one of you has a special position in God's larger plan. You were made to do much more under God's tender care, so take action today and use your plenty to exalt His kingdom. God bless you. Don't be fooled. God is not mocked because He will reap what one sows. Galatians 6:7. Just as a home constructed on sand could never survive a storm, a tree cannot grow from poisoned soil. Devastation was what they fostered, even if they believed they were sowing the seeds of power. They assumed their foundation was unbreakable, mixed mortar with hubris, and placed bricks of deceit. However, the earth underneath them was never stable. The storm has arrived, and it was just borrowed time. The fissures they disregarded have grown into a chasm, and the weight of their own decisions is too much. They are now being surrounded by the walls they erected to keep others down. They stretched their hands toward things that were never supposed to be within their reach, walking with a fictitious feeling of dominance. They were guided by pride rather than knowledge. They didn't just test the boundaries, they crossed them, entering areas without authority and imposing their will on forces they never had the power to control. They thought they could manipulate energies beyond their comprehension, so they toyed with them. However, arrogance is not the answer to the spiritual world. It resists being manipulated. With the power of every wrong they believed they had escaped, everything they put out has now started to come back, not in the form of stories or murmurs, but as an unstoppable wave. It's not a fight. This isn't retaliation. The adage, "what is given must return," is as ancient as time itself. They shaped barriers, made chains, and closed doors for years. However, attempting to obstruct someone else's path simply serves to erode your own base. You only guarantee that your collapse will be unexpected when you plot in the dark. They never held the power they thought they controlled. All it was doing was waiting for the ideal opportunity to change, to move, to retaliate with the force of their own will. They discover too late that it was never a fortress as they stand at the entrance to what they constructed. They created the trap themselves. This is your time. Let's accomplish greatness together by subscribing. Examine the area surrounding them. The ground they formerly stood on with such assurance is now quivering. They are unable to unlock the doors that they have so firmly sealed against others. Their accumulated power ebbs and flows through frantic hands like water. This is a result, not a curse. It is impossible to upset the universe's equilibrium. Finally, the seeds they planted have sprouted, and the harvest is unstoppable. For them, the path ahead is neither paved with money nor leads to fame. It is composed of all the decisions they refuse to accept. They disregarded every opportunity to turn away, every time they laughed at compassion. This storm did not appear out of thin air. It is the weight of cause and consequence, moving with purpose and accuracy and not being able to be undone. They are unable to purchase their escape. They can't beg for more time. Now, when the hourglass is empty, the only thing left is the reckoning they penned themselves. You stand unharmed too. You get up unfazed. Because what was given to break you has only made you stronger, and what was meant for you can never be taken. Even if the storm is raging, you are not affected. Since you were never on their level in the first place, you are above it. Noise and spectacle are unnecessary. The illusions they formerly encased themselves in are sliced through by the calm precision of the weight of consequence. Under the weight of inevitable fate, everything they thought was impenetrable has started to crumble piece by piece. The ground underneath them, which they formerly trod confidently, is shifting and will not support what reality no longer supports. They can now order doors to open, but they won't move. They are left alone in the wreckage of their own creation as the bonds they depended on vanish. What they previously acquired by trickery, manipulation, and treachery now eludes them. This is neither an accident of destiny nor a coincidence. It is the inevitable outcome of all they do. They have no way out of what they let out into the world, which now encircle them more tightly and sharply at every step. They no longer have control over their own course from the periphery of their own aim. Their decisions have been weighed and the balance is changing. Nothing is overlooked. No seed that is sown comes up empty. It was inevitable and always written. They used to be surrounded by protection, which was built into the very fabric of their lives and was invisible but constant. However, protection is not a right. It's a contract that was shattered the instant they disregarded the values that protected them. There is now just quiet where formerly invisible forces gave instructions. What used to cushion their falls now lets the full force of consequences hit them unchecked. They are now standing on shaky ground since the benefits that formerly accompanied them, the very foundation they were building on, have withdrew. They mistaken delay for flight and grace for permission. However, the unraveling starts with the first disregarded warning, the first disregarded consequence, not with a crash. The barriers that formerly contained the deluge were eroded with every stride they made away from the truth and every instance they used to defend damage. Those barriers have fallen now. What was invisible has become indisputable, tearing down what was constructed on borrowed time, as it moves relentlessly through their lives. Only the weight of what they won't admit is crushing into every area they previously believed to be safe. There is no longer any place of safety. Their own decisions weigh heavily on them, not as intangible guilt, but as indisputable facts that are happening in the real world. Their planned harm does not reappear in rumors or brief disruptions. It hardens and manifests as abrupt losses and disintegrating structures. Suddenly, what was once stable falls apart. Resources are like water in their hands. Every foundation they always relied on is suddenly eroding under their feet, and plans fall apart before they can take form. What they believed to be a safe future turns out to be flimsy, constructed on stolen energy and misguided ideals. These results are not mysterious. Rather, they are the unavoidable fact that every action has a price. The same barriers they put in the way of others now stand in the way of their own advancement. The damage they threw into the world hasn't gone away. Instead, it has retaliated with a precise blow. No injustice or randomness exists here. Only the delicate balance is re-establishing itself, guaranteeing that nothing left to destruction is unaffected by its reappearance. Don't delay. Together, let's reach new heights by subscribing right now. The collapse that is taking place in front of them is neither abrupt nor unfathomable. It is the eagerly anticipated answer to a debt they neglected for far too long. The systems they used to be able to easily navigate are now excluding them. Possibilities disappear. Known allies grow aloof. Once welcoming doors are still securely locked. They have been ignoring the consequences for years because they think they are above the law. However, the consequences of what they have put out cannot be completely prevented. There is no bargaining, no loophole that can erase the past. The very essence of their being now bears the imprint of their own choices, and it has altered the course of their existence. They have lost more than material security. They have severed the unseen connections that once guided and shielded them. Where wisdom once whispered, now there is only confusion. Where support once held them steady, there is nothing but emptiness. This disconnection was not imposed upon them. It was chosen, step by step, with every decision that pushed them further from alignment, and now without the forces that once steadied them, they drift, unable to reclaim what they have willingly cast away. They now find themselves without protection, stripped of the barriers that once shielded them. The very forces they once wielded against others have turned inward, consuming their path with uncertainty and misfortune, while what once seemed like effortless control has spiraled into chaos, each turn leading to dead ends and relentless obstacles. The detachment spreads through their lives like fire through dry leaves, unstoppable and absolute. What they confront today is not simply loneliness, but a degree of isolation beyond imagination. Not abandoned by accident, but by the decisions they made. They rejected the light, and now it does not recognize them. The bonds they cut were not only outward, but braided into the substance of their existence. And now, without them, their trajectory has turned permanently. What once contained the promise for progress has now solidified into stagnation, a circle of repetition with no escape. Progress is won through alignment, through integrity, by choosing truth over delusion. But they accepted lies, and now they roam aimlessly, a soul untethered, stuck in an eternal slide. This is not a punishment. It is a reflection of their decisions. Life is movement, and they have chosen to stay static. The teachings supposed to purify them have become weights they cannot flee, hidden behind layers of self-imposed blindness. For they have sowed the wind, and they will reap the whirlwind. Hosea 8-7. A farmer does not plant thorns and expect a crop of wheat. A builder does not construct a foundation of sand and expect a home to stand. And yet, there are individuals who wander through life thinking they can sow harm and nevertheless reap serenity. They construct webs of falsehood, believing they would never become trapped in them. They throw out damage, confident it will never circle back. But the rules of the cosmos do not bend for hubris. They do not halt for convenience. What is set into motion must return, and the moment for that return has come. Their choices were not taken in ignorance. They were constructed in full consciousness, in full defiance. Every action they performed was purposeful. Every action is calculated. Every decision was made with purpose. These same decisions have now created the same bonds that hold them together. This isn't a coincidence. This is not bad luck. This is consequences weight bearing down and demanding to be born. They believe they could avoid the consequences of their actions, but nobody can avoid paying the bill when it's time. To be clear, they are never the only ones who bear the cost. The harm doesn't end with them. It continues to spread, extending beyond the present and into the future. Spiritual debt never goes away. It doesn't go away with time. It lurks, awaiting confrontation, repayment, and the restoration of equilibrium. And it will come after them if they don't confront it. When the past is left in ruins, there is no way to go ahead. A soul that refuses to put things right will never find peace. This isn't a barrier. It's a descent, a gradual unwinding, a collapse that takes place gradually, moment by moment, and robs them of all they previously believed they could control. Their current actions are not forward motion. Rather, they are entering a never-ending loop in which every attempt to go is met with opposition, and every door they attempt to open is closed due to their own decisions. Their journey was a gift, an opportunity to grow, to recover, to become greater. However, they rejected it instead, opting for devastation rather than change. There's no simple way out now. They must fully bear the consequences of their acts. It's time to face the reality they fled from. Realize your full potential. Let's build something exceptional by subscribing today. Those who were captivated by their own wants are remembered throughout history. It repeatedly recounts the tales of people who went too far, took too much, and allowed their ambition and greed to prevent them from seeing what was really important. There was a guy who thought that having money was the secret to happiness, and whose every desire came true. A guy who, after requesting gold to fill his hands, discovers too late that the exact things he treasured have been incinerated. His desired gift turned into a burden. He lost everything that had real worth because of what he believed would make him happy. That tale is a lesson woven into the fundamental fabric of life, not just a fiction. Without judgment, unbridled ambition breeds ruin. Without a purpose, power is a myth. If someone takes without considering the repercussions, they will discover that they were only ever taking from themselves. There is no mistake in the universe's motion. It's intentional. It's accurate. What was obtained by dishonesty gets taken back. Anything constructed on the shoulders of others will eventually crumble under its own weight. Everything that was sent to impede, control, or block was observed, measured, and met with opposition. Nothing that is put in your way maliciously can take away what God has set aside for you. The limits of human time do not apply to the bigger powers. They make deliberate movements to make sure that what is meant for you shows up at the right time. Any efforts to obstruct your path have only served to accelerate your ascent. You are now being lifted higher by the same obstacle that was intended to break you. Your progress has been accelerated by the same thing that was planned against you. What was denied has multiplied and come back to you in large quantities, and the hurdles that were put in your way have broken down. What has already been weaved into your life cannot be changed by any power. Your energy is still unbreakable. Something far bigger than those who attempted to obstruct you is shining on your road. Your foundation could never be moved by their efforts. Rather, they just accelerated their own decline. Once something has been started, it cannot be stopped. The invisible forces that accompany you are not passive. Their precise movements guarantee that any effort to distract you is promptly corrected. The resistance you encountered was always an affirmation of your strength, not a sign of weakness. Your resonance has only grown as a result of what was intended to silence you. What was intended to stifle your advancement has simply made you more accessible. You are not the only one who rises. Nothing stands in the way of your ascent because the invisible forces that are at your side, guides, guardians, and those who have watched over your movements for a long time, have stepped in. Every action meant to break your flow has come full circle, and new avenues are opening up for you. The once present shadows have dispersed, giving way to an uncontrollable brightness. The upper order reacted when resistance arose, not just to counteract damage, but to advance you. Your hardships did not make you weaker. Rather, they shaped you into the strong person you are today. The failures were never defeats, but rather stepping stones to something bigger. Now, those who obstructed your progress must watch as you surpass all the boundaries they attempted to set. This moment is a validation of your mission, not just justice. A tribute to the power you've always had. It is impossible to reverse what has been written. Nothing can override the edict of divine order, which has spoken with all its weight. This life has a purpose and is not arbitrary. It happens precisely, and you become a part of a pattern that goes beyond this one time. The energy that surrounds you is shaped by your essence, which is a force that is not passive. You walk with purpose, bringing a presence that changes the invisible world. You restore where chaos once was. You're the remedy where disharmony flourished. The efforts to sabotage your path were doomed to fail. They were only a validation of your power. Instead of consuming you, the energy that was focused at you went back to where it came from, brought back by the same rules that apply to everything. There is no denying the weight of your trip, yet your strength remains unabated under duress. It spreads, creating an indestructible base. You are here to take action, not to watch. Anything that attempted to stand against you is dwarfed by what stands behind you. Although there are many examples of people overcoming hardship, they are all examples of the unwavering resolve to change. Some people have experienced adversity as builders of their own improvement rather than as victims. They were sharpened by experiences that would have crushed weaker brains, honed by opposition and molded by adversity. They regained their story by using knowledge, faith, and unrelenting resolve to transform setbacks into motivation for their mission. Those who refuse to let their circumstances define them have etched the path from oppression to empowerment into history. What was supposed to weaken them instead served as the basis for their influence. These motions are not random. Rather, they are a representation of energies coming into alignment and part of a larger unfolding. Protection extends beyond the tangible, beyond what is seen and recognized by those who only see the outside, when the magnitude of justice necessitates a reevaluation. Despite every effort to change your course, there are forces at play that are both old and unrelenting. Their motions are deliberate adjustments rather than spectacular exhibitions, tearing down whatever that was constructed to get in the way and strengthening the path forward. They have witnessed. They have taken measurements. They have also taken action. The damage that was intended for you did not find its target. Its path was reversed, interrupted. What seemed to be an assault was just the cosmos changing its trajectory to preserve equilibrium. Until the day of reckoning comes, the weight of invisible protection is not felt. The opposition then discovers, too late, that they never had power. The tide just shifts, making sure that what was out of alignment gets corrected again, without requesting permission to do so. Beyond what is obvious to the naked eye, there is an unseen current working in your favor. Even when you feel completely alone, invisible hands are constantly reshaping the route in front of you. Every action has been directed, and every obstacle has been overcome with help from beyond the physical world. It was no accident what happened. It was the reaction of a cosmos that cannot stand chaos without repercussions. No injustice persists forever. Everything that was started against you has been stopped, taken apart, and put back where it came from. The presence that guards you is not passive. Rather, it is purposeful, accurate, and unflinching. The forces that attempted to trap you were dismantled before they had a chance to establish themselves. Your guardians are the designers of your shield, not aloof characters. The invisible power that makes sure no danger goes unchecked. They don't just watch, they take action, cutting off connections to damage before it gets to you, directing you away from invisible threats and re-establishing equilibrium when others tried to upset it. What was intended to impede your advancement has instead strengthened your base. Energy does not travel in a random manner. Everything comes full circle, molded by the exact desire that created it. Instead of disappearing into thin air, the disturbance they caused has returned, stronger and more persistent than before. This is not your war, and it is not your responsibility. They now have to bear the consequences of their own reckless behavior, which they once dispersed. The universe's design is unflinching, unwavering, and unforgiving. Energy simply changes in response to the hands that guide it. It is never lost. The return is unavoidable for those who act in deceit and devastation. It is a reckoning woven into the very fabric of life. No one can stop you from rising. What has already been initiated cannot be undone by any power. There is more momentum behind you than there is in front of you. The route has been cleaned, and the forces at your side have made sure that nothing can get in your way, so you may go with confidence.